City of Stevens Point Common Council meeting, recorded April 18, 2022.
We have 7 o'clock. We'll call the regular Common Council meeting of the City of Stevens Point to order. Could I get a roll call, please?
Christensen.
Here.
Shore.
Here.
Kiemer.
Here.
Zarazua.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Slowinski.
Here.
Kneebone.
Here.
Leek.
Here.
Dalton.
Here.
Fischler.
Here.
Morrow.
Here.
And everyone is here, and that's good, because Alderperson Fischler was feeling lonely for a while until everybody showed up on this side of the table. And Alder Christensen, of course, is joining us from remote. If you would please join me in our salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all for joining us this evening. Let's see. We have Nancy Rappi for item number 8. So a couple of things that I wanted to touch on for this month. First of all, we've got a couple of retirements. After the first of the year, you generally see that. Lisa Yakush has retired as our Human Resources Manager after over 24, nearly 25 years with the city, 37 if you count her work with the county.
Man.
And she's joining us remotely. We're going to give her an opportunity for some party comments at the end of the meeting. And then our police chief, Tom Zenner, is going to be retiring on May 2nd. Tom has been with the department for 28 years. So anybody who sees Chief Zenner or Human Resources Manager Yakush, please congratulate them. Take notes to see what retirement is like. Ron, you've been in that position for a while, so I hear good things. But we can't thank them enough for their service. And HR Manager Yakush was given a plaque at her last day, which was April 1st. For those of you who don't know, Sandy, my administrative assistant, who is the backup for Human Resources Manager, has been doing the duties in the interim. So we're in the process of holding interviews to fill that position. It's obviously big shoes to fill. There was a lot of history there and a lot of knowledge that goes with her. And finally, while he was never really much in the spotlight, I wanted to take a moment to recognize the service for Bob Ware. Bob was a Vietnam veteran. I didn't know him back then. And he won several medals, including the Bronze Star, the Meritorious Service Medal, and a bunch of others, including the Purple Heart. Bob passed away in late March. When he worked for the county, he worked in the sheriff's department as a corrections officer. And it was about that time we met while he was doing work for Habitat for Humanity. This guy was tireless in his service to the community. I couldn't even tell you how many homes he helped build through Habitat for Humanity. Plus serving in the city capacity, he was on several of our boards and commissions. So I'd like us all just to take a few seconds to think about Bob and the service that he did to our community. And with that, I know he'll be missed. We also recently, as you know, had an election. Alderperson Slowinski and Alderperson Leek will be leaving City Council after their service. Jeremy, I think you've been with us since, 2006?
Correct.
Something like that, glutton for punishment. And both of the gentlemen will have some opportunities, and we have a little something recognizing their service towards the end of the meeting. So it takes a certain type of person to step up and serve the community. It is mostly a thankless job. There is an opportunity to do really good things, and I've been very fortunate to have those opportunities. Everyone at this table has had those opportunities. They do it for the good things because they want to help their community. The downside, of course, is that you get ridiculed and nitpicked at almost every decision you make. I often tell people I could give everyone unicorns and rainbows, and someone would complain because my rainbow isn't as bright as that person's rainbow. It's a challenging job to sit there and get scrutinized over every decision. So I thank every single person here for their service to the community, their ongoing service, and to the citizens who show up on those things that are important to them. Because that counts just as much as everything we do up here. With that, is there anyone else who hasn't filled out a piece of paper here to speak on an agenda item that wishes to? If not, we're going to move into the non-agenda items. So item number 3 is persons who wish to address the mayor and council on a specific agenda item other than a public hearing should register their request at this time. Those who wish to address the common council during a public hearing are not required to identify themselves until a public hearing is declared open by me. As I mentioned earlier, there is no public hearing tonight, so we need you to register. Seeing no other movement, I'm going to move into item number 4, which is persons who wish to address the mayor and council for up to 3 minutes regarding a non-agenda item. And we will go first to Alderperson Mary Kneebone.
Thank you, Mayor. I think people, as you came in today, noticed some of the potholes were filled. There was a Jeopardy answer about a week ago that was the ice bucket challenge, and I was thinking about the great pothole challenge for this parking lot with to see if that new machine that I've seen on TV would be up to the task. But it sounds like the parking lot's going to get fixed fairly soon, and we've got some potholes repaired now. So guess we don't need a great pothole challenge tonight. And I also wanted to congratulate Lieutenant Dana Williams on being promoted to Assistant Chief in the Stevens Point Police Department. She certainly deserves the promotion, so kudos to her.
Thank you. And speaking of kudos, we would be remiss if we didn't recognize also kudos to Kuso, who will be promoted.
Yes. I thought he already had been.
No, none of those.
I guess they both get sworn in on the 3rd, correct?
None of those actually take effect until the 3rd after Chief Zenner retires, just so you know. But yeah, so we've had discussions about the condition of the pavement here at 933 Michigan Avenue. It's already out to bid to replace the parking lot. So it doesn't make sense to spend a whole lot of money and time to fill the holes, but we did have a patch crew in here just to temporarily put some cold patch in. They'll last the 2 months it takes to get the parking lot redone. But yeah, it's tough all over. All right, item number 4, we also have Keith Kudrowski.
Thank you, Keith Kudrowski, 1536 Water Street. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that the time spent by the majority of the people who sit up here definitely do this out of a lot more for passion than for the pay, obviously, because the pay is squat. But we have some people who I would have to question that just for the book they wrote and some of his actions during this last election where he went into a polling place with his candidate stuff on, just continues to be that person. We'll never, sorry, that is not a person of the people. That is a person for himself, for his cause. Probably the only one I really have a major issue with, one of them we're getting rid of. Thank you for Dean. Thank you, Jeremy, for all your time. And yeah, I do appreciate all your time. I really do. I might come up here and bitch a little bit, but I do appreciate what you do. And on that, I also promised I would say hi to someone, Bob Pesh. Here's a guy who did so much when I was a kid. Out of his pocket, he would take us to ball games as kids. He would take us to the Brewer games. He would do stuff for us out of his pocket. Not out of the taxpayer's pocket, out of his pocket.
Oh, I see.
Oops.
Unlike the other famous Democrat of Stevens Point, Tim Shue Sullivan, who's always a handout. Loves Shue, but Always looking for a freebie. Pesh always looking to do something for you. There you go, Ma. There's your call out. Thank you. Love you, buddy.
Everybody loves my passion. Some people love shoe. Keith, seriously? A little? It's more than a little.
What's that?
You're bitching. Dave, you're up. I want you to come in next month and say something nice.
Dave Iden, 1008 Matilda Street. Thank you. Good evening. I'm just going to touch base on something I mentioned probably maybe not a year ago, and the fact that the band shell needs attention. And at the time I brought it up, apparently there was something in the works at least for an assessment. I hope that proceeds because I don't want to see us have to say we got to tear it down and build a new one for umpteen $1 million. So that's something that I think we should attend. That's a focus point for our community. We keep it up. It shows that we care about our community also, and it needed repair. I did mention the CNN Bridge, which looks pretty rough. If that's the railroad's business. You drive under the south underpass.
CN Bridge.
CN, excuse me,
Yep.
yeah,
Nope,
CN
got it.
Bridge. If you look under there, that looks pretty rough. Probably in need of an assessment. If that's their responsibility, we should be pressing them to look at that. Gusset plates are what caused the disaster in Minneapolis a few years back. You see a whole lot of traffic over that thing. They should be attending to repairing that also. And with that said, I guess I would like to further say that I guess I'd like to see us begin at some point the work on the major road project we have here, keeping it at 4 lanes. Everybody's going to avoid it because it's going to be a disaster driving through there under construction, however, but that's something I think we had a time frame on in the north section. We really need to move forward in that regard. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much. I'm getting comments from the people listening that they don't have any audio. My settings are correct. How's everything on the,
Hearing everything okay on my end.
you're hearing everything okay? Everybody online is not.
Oh. They are not hearing or they're not able to?
No audio. They are not able to hear. But the settings on this computer are correct, and I've reset them. Let's try this. Let's try that. Can anyone on the Zoom link hear me now? Well,
Probably need to log back in.
no, that's not it.
No?
No, the settings here are correct. I want to make sure we got the settings correct back there. We're going to take just a minute to figure this out. What is this? That's nothing.
Sing about it.
No, this is for if you need to hook up a phone or something. It's just a USB hub. Let's try this. I do those things. That's how I do it. I'm magic. Magic Mike. Get it?
I don't think.
Because it's a microphone. Come on, get your minds out of the gutter. All right, so video, audio.
Who's there? There it is.
Are you sure?
Yep, this is Joel. I can hear you and see you now.
Okay. The old IT trick. Unplug it and plug it back in. Yeah, the settings were correct, so I don't know what's happening here. Those of you online, please mute yourselves again. Yeah, settings are exactly the same. Okay, now we are back on, and we will move on to our consent agenda. Item number 5.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve from President Johnson and a second from Alderperson Dalton. Discussion. Hearing and seeing none. Clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen,
Come on.
Yes.
I know you can hear us. There, I was going to say, I know you can hear us.
Shore,
Yes, yep.
Aye.
Zarazua,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leak.
Aye.
Felton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved unanimously. Item number 6 is a resolution declaring no mow May in the city of Stevens Point. We started this last year, had a huge response to the point where we had to order more signs because people really took advantage of it. You can argue one way or the other, but the point is you don't have to participate if you don't want to. But if you choose to participate, you are exempt from our property maintenance codes regarding lawns till June 6th, I think it was. We need you to have your lawns back in compliance prior to that. And because of that, we are offering extended hours at our yard waste drop-off, May 30th through that Saturday, which is, I think, May 1st, right? 2nd, 3rd. Whatever that is. It is April, May, June 4th. So it will be extended hours through June 4th to give everybody ample time to put their yard waste drop-off in. So we would be looking for a resolution to make that declaration again. And if so, we've got the signs picked up today, right? People can start signing up online tomorrow. You must sign up through the city website to participate. If you don't sign up, you will be subject to the normal ordinances.
I'll move approval.
Thank you. Seconded by Zarazua. Discussion there.
Is there a limit of how many people can sign up, or can anyone?
There is
sign up?
not. Anybody can sign up who's a city resident. Of course, it's only good in the city.
Okay.
And when you sign up, you will get a sign. We're going to ask you to come to the Community Development Department, pick up your yard sign, display your yard sign proudly, and we will keep a running list of all those people who are signed up. That way, if we need to, if we get a complaint or something, we know who is and who is not participating. All right, clerk?
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Felton.
Aye.
Leak.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slawinski.
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 7 is a resolution authorizing staff to apply for a Department of Natural Resources grant for Emerson Park.
I can hear it here.
Director Kramer, did you want to talk about this? I'm muting iPad 7, whoever that is.
The Friends of Emerson Park have been working with city staff, looking to meet their fundraising goals to complete the revitalization of the park. The Federal Land and Water Conservation Fund is only eligible to a municipality. So in order to be able to fill out that application, the Friends Group has approached the city and been working with staff. This is a resolution that allows me as staff to submit that grant application. It allows the half of the fund or the project fund to be acquired if we're successful in that grant application. What does this resolution do? It makes us able to submit it. We would first learn later this year if we were to acquire it, and at that point we'd be able to make the decision to line up in terms of completing the project. There's also the opportunity that sometimes they award a portion of it, so we'd know more of those details at that time. So basically what we're setting out here is to apply for the full 50% that the project is eligible for, and the Friends of Emerson Park are walking hand in hand with us. So we feel it's a good opportunity. Right now we're hoping there's some excess funds available with some of the new laws and things or bills that have been coming out. So we're hopeful this will be another positive for the city.
And this doesn't commit us to providing any funding from the city, correct?
Correct. So the way the grant is set up is that the local match would be provided by the Friends of Emerson Park.
Thank you. President Johnson,
Motion
approval?
Yes, please.
I'll second.
Thank you. Some people are good at taking hints. The stare down.
Yeah, the stare down.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
If I may.
Yes.
I just want to reassure people that the Friends of Emerson Park have already raised about $200,000, a little more or less, in pledges and donations and grants. And we are in the middle, so the Friends of Emerson Park, a group I co-founded and work with Alder Keimer, our neighborhood. And we are in the middle of a capital campaign, and it's running along quite successfully. If you know Janet Georgella Finn or Pat Wenzel, they are like rockets taking our capital campaign to reality. So rest assured that Friends of Emerson Park will do everything possible. Chancellor Thomas Gibson is our honorary chair, and he has written a strong letter of support for this project.
And that was provided to all of the alderpersons earlier. Just a quick question for myself,
Sure.
President Johnson. If someone wanted to contribute to Emerson Park, how could they do that?
Absolutely. I'll let Alder Keemer answer that one.
Yeah, there's a tiny URL that we can share, but there's also just through the Friends of Emerson Park's website, which is emersonparksp.org. And the fund is through the Community Foundation of Central Wisconsin, so you can also look us up through their website as well.
Excellent, thank you. Got to get the plug in, right? All right, any other comments? Hearing none, clerk, would you please call the roll?
Christensen,
Aye.
Shore,
Aye.
Keemer,
Aye.
Zarazua. Johnson,
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Nebone,
Aye.
Leek,
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
And that is approved. Item number 8 is an ordinance amendment, a request from the City of Stevens Point to amend Chapter 23, the zoning ordinance of the revised municipal code of the City of Stevens Point. Said request adds Section 23.01 Sub 14 relating to the allowance of accessory dwelling units and accessory commercial units in the City of Stevens Point. I guess we'll need a motion first.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to
I
approve,
second.
seconded by Morrow. And before we go into our discussion, we have several people wishing to speak. So we'll start online. Nancy Rappi, you had asked to speak. You'll have 3 minutes.
Nancy Rappi, 925 Smith Street. I recently emailed each of the council members regarding my opposition to allowing ADUs and ACUs. I hope you took the time to read my comments. I find it astonishing and somewhat schizophrenic that you just passed a feel-good no mow May resolution. And in your next action, you're likely going to render it completely meaningless by voting to annihilate those very pollinators 900 square feet at a time. By paving over their backyard habitats in the name of creating yet more tax space in one fell swoop, it shows exactly where your priorities lie. I'm sure we're going to hear the argument that any fears about sweeping citywide zoning change are baseless because of the 10-month residency requirement. There is nothing to prevent a landlord in a month, or in 3 months, or in 6 months from requesting removal of this provision, and you'll grant it because you just have to help them out. Oh, the poor dears will cry and complain that they can't make it, and you just have to allow them to build ADUs, and you'll do it. Mr. Karnowski presented a series of slides at the Plan Commission meeting showing a primary residence, all the necessary setbacks, and a 900 square foot ADU. If you notice, the ADU is as far back as possible. Now, if that structure is truly intended to be a place for mom, why is it practically in the neighbor's yard? Well, it's because it's not for mom. It's meant as a future rental property where the primary residence gets as much of a buffer zone from the renters as possible. That's why it's 10 feet from the neighbor's property instead of 10 feet from the primary residence. Think about it. Why would you want to go to the added expense of trenching all that way to the furthest reaches of your property to install sewer, water, and electrical when instead the ADU could be 10 feet from your back door? It's not about giving mom her space. It's about keeping your distance from your renters. As Ruth Piffner pointed out numerous times, we've never gotten a straight answer about who brought this extreme zoning change forward. It varies from 2 or 3 alders brought it up to some people requested it to a few people want it. The fact that you can't, or more correctly, won't be truthful about where this came from tells me all I need to know. There is a special interest group pushing this for their own financial gain. Another rationale we've heard is because we need to add density, but we have yet to hear a cogent definition of what density is and what happens when it's achieved. Surely density is not met by adding 2 grandmas and a grandpa in a shack in the back structure, that's for sure. This zoning change fundamentally impacts single-family property owners who put quite literally their life savings into a neighborhood where they had a reasonable expectation that it would remain single-family. My property value shouldn't be diminished so my neighbor can make an extra buck at my expense. I've been to every meeting on this subject, including the meeting at Emerson Park, and the overwhelming majority of attendees were opposed to this. It's time to put this idea out to pasture where it belongs.
Thank you, Nancy, and thank you very much to you and Joe. I want to extend my personal thanks on the work you've done with the county healthcare system. I did want to point out one thing. You are not required to have it 10 feet from the neighbor's property. That is the closest you can have it from the neighbor's property, which ironically is also the closest you can have it to your primary residence. Doesn't need to be that far away. You can choose to have it that close. Next up, we have Carol Malovsky.
Can I pass something out?
Generally, we don't allow that, Carol.
There's a picture.
If there's, okay. How are we going to get everybody to see it?
Well, just pass it down. There's a couple.
All right, we'll pass it around and then make sure it gets back to Clerk Yenter for the record, because we'll need to have it in the official record, please.
So my name is Carol Malovsky. I live at 2125 Clark Street. I also have the subchapter 5, open meetings and the statute requirements for open meetings here. If you want a copy, I have multiple copies. The final step for these citywide residential zoning changes would be voted on by each one of you at this council meeting tonight. If passed, the proposal changes will permit up to a 900 square foot base, 1,800 square foot, 2-story accessory dwelling, or a commercial unit, and I'm still not really sure what commercial unit means, to be built in anyone's backyard subject to certain conditional use restrictions. Side yard, 7.5 feet, can't be any closer than 10 feet to the primary residence, and other restrictions. If met, the permit must be granted. The neighbors have no recourse. They probably will be notified by postcard, like I was when my neighbor moved his garage closer to the fence, but they will really have no recourse regarding the size of it, the position of it, the use, or the elimination of their privacy in their own backyard. There's no 28-foot if it's a 30 by 30 building, which is 900 square foot. The base, the box, is 20 feet high, and ask an architect, the gable end, which is not counted in that 20 feet, would be 7 to 8 feet above that. So if you look at that picture that I'm sending around, that's my neighbor's garage. Looking out my window, that's what I would see. His square footage is 858 square feet. Looking at it, I figured it was pretty close to 900 square feet, and it is. So you can see through the picture too how it obstructs a view, or how it would if it was right in my backyard, which I could do, and 2 other houses on my side of the block could do, could really push the limits as far as leftover green space. Single-family zoning becomes 2-family. My two-family would become multiple family, from which we had downzoned to try to protect our central city, to protect the houses, to protect the old houses, to protect the bigger old houses, so they weren't divided. The city, particularly in the central part of the city, is tenuous. It has a balance that we've managed to keep the area stable, because there are single-family people that want to live in the city because they do have some backyard, and there's still a multitude of different housing options, including students, kitty corner for me, in a dormitory. A required public hearing regarding these changes was already held last April 4th with public notice, some with little public notice. Some informational meetings were held last summer with postcard notification, but not in all districts. But for our purposes, that for the final public hearing, which has already happened, the notice has to be current. So any notice to that public hearing would have to be that week or 2 before. The city did not send a broad notification. I pushed for a postcard, as well as other people, for the public hearing on this comprehensive zoning change. And so here we are tonight. And if you notice, there aren't a ton of people, because still a ton of people do not know. The city is required to by statute to publish 3 notices of such hearing. They chose to do bare notice, to put the city, if they put it on the website, that was the first site. They did an 8.5 by 11 hard copy of the agenda on the bulletin board next to the mayor's office. The third one was an 8.5 by 11 hard copy on the bulletin board next to the county clerk's office. I walked the corridors that day just checking that, and there was nobody in the hallway except for those people who work in the courthouse.
Carol, can you please?
Okay, I will.
Thank you.
No newspaper publication, no postcards to taxpayers, to homeowners. City says it would cost $2,500 to $3,000 to send postcards, which is the cost of a few July fireworks. Perhaps celebrating democracy with informing the public is more transparency than the use of the dollars. To date, our city leaders have not explained how these proposed changes will make our city a better place for those of us who live here, investing our money and paying taxes. Literature on these ADUs and CDUs are backed by organizations like realtors and contractors. No homeowners groups are listed. I've asked that you vote down this proposal because first, the taxpayers were not properly informed by the city. There were signs around, but that was done by private people, which means that the taxpayer pays twice for notification, which in one case wasn't done. Stevens Point is a small city. Its calling card is the livability, sense of place, and certainly some extra green space, with backyards with quiet and privacy. I've been to too many river cities in Wisconsin where city leaders thought an idea of progress was the thing to do, and it tripped a fragile balance of livability and people moved out. I see that distinct possibility, particularly in vulnerable, challenged neighborhoods like our central city. Thank you for your interest.
Thank you, Carol.
And I do have these
Armin?
copies.
We allow 3 minutes, so we give quite a bit of latitude with that. Please be respectful of everybody's time.
Armin Nabel, 1100 Phillips Street. Why is the city proposing the city-wide zoning change, or ADUs, additional dwelling units? City officials have responded to residents' objections about tonight's agenda item, a city-wide zoning proposal for ADUs and ACUs. They have responded to these concerns these past few months saying, well, not everyone's going to choose to build a separate structure on their property, and homeowners shouldn't be concerned because additions are already permitted. However, keep in mind that these already permitted additions are ones that are attached to the existing main structure. These are a new structure. These new dwellings will be built much closer to a back or side yard and overlooking a once private yard space. A fence won't be high enough to keep these additions from being 20 feet plus height with a 6 to 8 foot gabled roofs. In addition, respondents and reassurances residents have been told about this proposal are, well, most people are not going to be able to afford to construct one of these ADUs. There won't be many built as other nearby cities average only about 5 a year. This is true. Why implement a citywide zoning change if the effects are of homeowners rather than just a few possible ADUs per year? Why not require an applicant to request a variance rather than a conditional use permit? We've often been told that ADUs are an affordable housing option, which could benefit the housing elderly family members or even additional income to help pay mortgage. According to the city staff, the average cost of an ADU would be about $80,000 to $100,000 plus additional costs for water and sewer hookups. A person needing assistance to paying their mortgage would not be able to afford to build an ADU. This cost would eliminate the chance of an ADU being rented by affordable rates for lower or moderate income renters. And as far as the usage for elderly members, a second-story ADU would not be very practical for elderly parents, nor the owner of an age to place in a secondary smaller unit that's 2 stories high. We will We also heard 2 weeks ago that the city is planning that there may be residents that were against the zoning proposal. And one man who builds tiny dwellings felt that 900 square feet was way too large to build an existing residential lot. He thought 700 was more appropriate. We who live in what is called the core of the city have much less green space and privacy. We already are overly dense with a number of rooming houses and student rentals in R3 zoning areas in the city. Please consider this. If your neighbor builds an ADU, it could be constructed to 20 by 6, 8 feet high. Due to the cable roof, this 26-foot structure would affect the neighboring houses behind and both sides, affecting their privacy, possibly even blocking their sunlight and increase their number of people, potentially the number of cars and the noise in the neighborhood. How much density do we need or want in our area? Some in this district zones. Maybe the city district that has not dense and diverse, maybe there's a city district that is not as dense and diverse. Maybe that would be something to try there, not the whole city.
Thank you, Armin.
Cindy?
I was going to say good morning. Good evening. Cindy Nabel, 1100 Phillips Street. I'm in here tonight just to talk again about why are we implementing a citywide zoning change to permit ADUs, the additional dwelling units for commercial units. Why not require a variance, where an applicant asks for that and requests it instead? We've been told the city has received inquiries from 2 or 3 people. And I want to bring that back up again tonight because it's also been told that it's an affordable housing option, benefit elderly, as Armin has mentioned too, the additional income. All of these may be a good reason that someone may want to construct an ADU. However, they're not a reason for a citywide zone proposal to be made for a few just additional dwelling units or commercial units throughout the city. If the city's proposal for this ADU ACU zoning is approved by a common council tonight, Stevens Point will no longer have traditional single-family residential zones. That's where we're going towards. This zoning proposal is but just one part of the Wisconsin Municipality League to identify and remove barriers for creating new housing development. The League has partnered with several major players in Wisconsin in real estate development and have received financial and technical support from them. This I've gotten from the magazines that I used to get when I was an alder. So it's from the municipalities. It is a plan. It has been being planned the last 2 years. The people that support this that are involved are Wisconsin Realtors Association, Wisconsin Builders Association, AARP, Wisconsin Housing and Economic Development Authority, National Association of Industrial and Office Parks, Wisconsin and the American Planning Association. All of these are groups that can benefit from this also, maybe helping the city at the same time, but definitely will financially benefit from it. A menu that is to change the local zoning that Wisconsin communities should consider making. This is what their plan is, starting small. It even explains how best to accomplish these changes, including ways to convince a skeptical public, and that's a quote unquote. It includes tools and training sessions to do this as well as to simplify and reform the ordinance languages. Examples of some of the code changes that will be coming up, probably someday. The guide recommends including these following ones. Some of them we've already done. Allow multi-unit housing as permitted uses in single-family zoning districts, which have historically included 2-family and multifamily. Realign lots, widths, and areas to match historic patterns favoring narrower lots. Well, we're doing that with new builds, I understand that, but to do that to people's own properties, to get people to start doing that, I just find that wrong. Reducing setbacks to historic distances to allow greater use of existing lots. Allow accessory dwelling by right for all single-family zoning districts. Manage residential density with building types, not units, per acre in each district. Reduce or eliminate parking minimums, which we've done. Assess and streamline subdivisions and workforce housing application processes so they can includes the standards that direct development outcomes and a time limit that is much faster to get these approved. I acknowledge the need that Stevens Point has and Wisconsin municipalities have for a variety of housing options here. But by changing citywide zoning now to allow for secondary dwelling units is short-sighted. And it may create, over time, a larger loss of single-family homes owners that support this city and have supported it for decades, and keep it from being a desirable place to live for families. Currently, zoning is used to define land use. That's what it's for. Whether an area will be zoned as allowed to have multifamily, single-family businesses, commercial, or 1 or 2 family housing. I'm in the R3, that's 1 to 2 house family. This same zoning has for decades provided guidance to homeowners when they're buying their homes, often their biggest investment for their families in their future. The proximity of a constructed ADU to the neighborhood homes, which could affect about 3 different properties, has the ability to negatively impact the expected use and enjoyment of privacy in effect under the code in which the person bought their home to begin with. I've witnessed this firsthand in the core and campus areas. For decades, I have seen our neighborhoods and housing properties decline and homes have become converted into rentals. The city needs to invest, but in types of revitalizing efforts which could bring existing housing into the market. Replacement and rehabilitation of the poor existing housing stock for affordable and missing middle housing will influence the housing market. Fix what we have first. Don't create more housing without the ability to enforce or manage. The city of Stevens Point had a housing study in 2017, MSA Professional Services, and they said right in here.
Cindy, are you coming close?
I am, yes.
Thank you.
Housing rehabilitation, do the first, they said, #1 thing to do is our opinion that our important issue trumps all others in the first priority for the city influence on the housing market, rehabilitation and replacement of low-value homes. The poor condition and low values of many homes in the older central part of the city is a pervasive problem that the marketplace and existing housing rehab programs are not fixing. We encourage the city to focus on this issue and then proceed to the other initiatives requiring city investment and staff funding that comes as it becomes available. This zoning proposal will allow a property owner to construct this one additional structure on top of another one. Yes, the regulations have been modified for the ADU, ACU zoning proposal, and this is my last point I have to get across. But we're looking at, and I'm very thankful to what has been done and the listening that they've done some changes on these requirements and the standards. But we've gone to say we're going to do a CUP, which is a conditional use permit. And people, I don't think, understand that that is something that, as Carol's trying to mention, that it is very short in being able to prevent somebody to build something. You will get a notice, you can go to the meeting, you can voice your complaint, but if the standards are met, you have to be the person to prove that it would ruin your property value. So I just want you to really think about that you're affecting the whole city of Stevens Point. Please reconsider voting tonight on this. Homeowners have worked hard to purchase their homes. Many of us do not have a lot to accommodate a second dwelling with losing significant green space. If you have bigger lots, 1 and 2 acre lots, sure, this might be a great idea. You won't affect your neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Trevor Rourke had asked to speak. I know we asked people to sign up ahead of time, but because of the technical difficulties, and he promised to keep it brief. Trevor, with everybody going over, that leaves you 12 seconds. Go ahead.
Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can, yes.
Okay, 12 seconds. Start counting. Trevor Rourke, 601 Washington Avenue.
Okay,
Thanks,
that's time. Sorry.
Oh, no, our time's up. Okay.
I'm kidding.
Good. Thanks, City Council and Mayor Wiesa and the city for bringing this to the table for discussion. I just want to say I'm supportive of ADUs and ACUs. These, in general, can increase our infill capabilities for the city, which is definitely a good thing when we're talking city budgets. It can become a practical housing option for some folks. It can add more affordable housing to the table, which I know is becoming a very important conversation right now as we're speaking. And it can be practical for people in their 80s, 90s, 100s, or even those that have a family. It can be a practical option. Really, I just want to say thank you, and I'm glad this has a potential to improve our zoning code when it comes to neighborhoods. So thanks so much.
Thank you. And last, we have Ron Carlson. That gives you like a full 3 minutes, Ron.
That's all I'm going to need. I'll be quick.
Thank you.
2 minutes.
I tell you, Ron Carlson, 3356 Oak Avenue. In my family, I've always worked things on a wants versus needs basis. In addition to every board I've been on, every budget I handled at the police department, it was wants versus needs. I see this as a want right now for the city. We're venturing into weird times, I have a feeling, economically, and just unsettling times. So I see this as a want rather than a need. With that said, I want to say all of us move into a neighborhood because we like the yard, we like the house, we like the neighborhood. We don't move in with thinking this is all going to change maybe next year or 2 years from now. Somebody will pop something up. But the times are a-changing. 2 weeks ago at the meeting when ADUs were talked about, I heard a number of people that said their grandmas or their grandpas lived with them. My grandpa lived with me when I was a young child. My wife's grandmother lived with her. We learned a lot from our grandpas and grandmas. We gave them a lot, they helped us a lot. Now we're going to put them in the backyard in a shack in the back. Let me just show you something, because earlier today I stopped in. I think this will give you a visualization. Right here is 30 feet. 30 feet to 30 feet. That is 900 square feet you're looking at. Imagine that in your backyard. Now, imagine you have a pretty garden. You have a pretty milkweed bed for the butterflies to come to. And now this 20-foot structure, 900 square feet, is going to be 10 feet from your border of your lawn. Your garden ain't going to get no sun. Those milkweed plants you planted for the butterflies, they ain't going to grow. So what you're stuck with is a neighbor who's got an accessory unit and you that have no garden anymore. And I respect Trevor Rourke. I may not agree with him on what he says, but I respect him because he does what he says. However, I find it ironic because I watched a Common Council meeting about a year and a half ago where someone was trying to add to their driveway. They wanted to add some concrete or cement. And Trevor spoke highly about the green space being disturbed. And the council voted down that driveway because the green space would be disturbed. Now think of the green space being disturbed. 900 square feet with a shack in the back. Is that going to disturb the green space? I think it is. All right, no mo me. Congratulations for passing it. I'm all for it. We plant things to attract bees. We plant things to attract butterflies. Isn't it a little hypocritical, though, that we're going to no mo me, but we're going to put up a 900 square foot shack in the back? How's that going to affect the butterflies and the bees that we're trying to regenerate here? I don't think it's going to be a good effect. And I'm not even going to talk about the neighborhood disputes that are going to occur or the parking issues that are going to occur, because I'm telling you right now, and I'm glad it's taped, you're going to have neighborhood disputes. You're going to have parking issues in these areas. That's the foregone conclusion. Take it from somebody who's been there, done that. I'm urging you to vote no or to create a motion to postpone this. But I don't think the timing is right for ADUs. And that's all I got to say.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
Yep.
Okay, our speaker list is exhausted. We'll bring it back to the commission or committee, council. We have a motion to approve. It's been seconded. Are there any comments from the alderpersons? Alder Slawinski.
I guess I have to agree with soon-to-be alderperson Carlson, and also some of the testimony online, Ms. Ropi, and I guess my biggest concern with this is, you know, obviously I've sat on this council for many years and I've heard many complaints about, you know, the parking issues, the neighbors, you know, one neighbor's doing this against the other neighbor. Mr. Cordis is, out there enforcing, somebody's got something in their yard that's not supposed to be there. And now we want to create, I guess, more friction in our neighborhoods. This doesn't make sense to me. I thought we wanted to unite our neighborhoods and not divide them. So I think this is going to be a problem as well. So I will not be supporting it. Thanks.
Thank you. Alderperson Morrow.
I feel kind of conflicted about this. On one side is like telling someone what they can and can't do with their land and their house. But also, if you live in the city, there are certain things that you expect in this, that you expect in the city. You also expect to move into a place. If it's a zoned single family, that's what you also think about. You think about the neighborhoods. I know on the city as well. There's been a lot of talk, a lot of discussion around UWSP about more and more houses getting put up in the upper, lowers, rent out, and so on. I don't think this would be a mother-in-law house. When I was getting ready for this, I was going around my area. Several houses had grandparents in there, mother-in-laws in there to help take care of the kids. Had elderly parents. The family was helping care for them, so they wouldn't end up going into a home. And there weren't any mention of ADUs because they wanted them close. They wanted them close to watch the kids. They wanted them close so that they could keep an eye on their mom, dad. I know if you live out in the county, if you live in Grant or Almond or Hull, you could do whatever the heck you want to do. I have folks who live in the upper part of a barn. They don't have a bathroom. They have a light socket, and that's about it. But if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But again, if you live in the city, there are certain expectations that go with that. If you want to live in the county and do whatever you want, great. So I will be actually voting against this. I don't think it's the concerns I have are about the effect that it would have. I don't think it's a mother-in-law house thing. For the people that I talked with, that's not really an issue. And I also think that the cost that it would cost that would be to put these things up would be, I think it'd be a very small amount. And I don't see too many people wanting to spend that, especially with the construction costs that we have. But again, if you live in the city, there are certain standards that we have, like to mow your lawn and keep up your place and be a good neighbor.
Thank you. Director Karnowski, is there anything you need to add? Because, honestly, we haven't heard anything new in the past several months. So unless there's something we need to add, we think we either vote yes or vote no.
Sure. So just a one quick comment regarding the conditional use permit. There is truth to some of the changes in state law that have made our ability as a council to deny conditional use permits a little bit more difficult. This was passed at the tail end of Governor Walker's administration. Essentially, you can't deny a conditional use permit based on subjective reasons. I don't want this next to my property is subjective. And you can't deny something based on that. But if there was something objective about it, it would cause sunlight issues. There's some real concern about devaluation of property. Those are ways to deny a conditional use permit. What we try to do when somebody comes in and seeks a conditional use permit for residential changes to their zoning lot, we often ask, have you talked to your neighbors? And if they say, yep, we've talked to them, as long as you're communicating with your neighbors about what you plan to do, it makes the process a lot smoother. It's when you do something and you haven't conversed with your neighbors that presents its own unique challenges. But through that process and things that we can do at the conditional use level is say, okay, you know what, you could go up to 20 feet in height, but to address that issue, we're going to put a condition it can be 15 feet in height. Or you can't have windows on this side of the building. So there are ways to utilize conditional uses to the advantage of those. Additionally, I've said this a number of times, the ADU ACU proposal is not the be-all end-all of addressing the housing concerns within the city. It's one tool in the toolbox. Correct. I don't believe that there's going to be these massive number of individuals swarming the community development office tomorrow seeking permission to construct an ADU. But you may have one, may have two, may have one every 5 years that are interested in doing this. It's a slow, incremental way to address affordable housing and incrementally increase density in our neighborhoods. We've also provided plenty of change from what was originally proposed last summer to the proposal before you tonight to address a lot of the concerns that the neighbors brought forward. In the R3, I'm sorry, in the core of the city around Old Main, we have required the minimum 10,000 square foot lot size in order to construct one. Cindy and Armin's property, I mean, there's no homes around you that could be able to construct one. Ms. Malovsky, same general concept. It becomes very challenging when you have those, and we've done a lot to protect that R3 zoning. It would impact more of the single family zoning, which is further out from the core than it would those properties that are in the core of the city. So again, I believe it's a tool in the toolbox. Plan Commission's reviewed this a number of times. A number of you have been there as part of those meetings, but recommendation is approval from Plan Commission, so vote your wish. So,
thank you, Director. Alderperson Fischler.
I know that I'm actually conflicted about this too, and I know, and it was actually good that Director Kronowski addressed actually some of the concerns I had after Cindy Nebel had spoken. Because the last thing I want is to vote for something that nobody has the ability to talk about with their neighbors. Like if it does come down to having that conditional use permit and somebody is explaining to the Planning Commission why they don't want it constructed in their backyard, that it's obstructing a view. That was a huge concern of mine. So I think it's good that that is addressed, that the Plan Commission will have that ability to, work with that neighbor that is maybe against building these. So I will be supporting this tonight.
Thank you. Anyone else want to tell us how they're voting? Alderperson Kiemer, then Zarazua, then Johnson.
For the entire year that I've been on council, there's been a lot of debate on this issue. Last May, I proposed tabling this discussion and bringing it to the community to conduct neighborhood meetings for public input. And we did that. A majority of the districts held public meetings last summer, and we heard a number of concerns. The Community Development Department took those concerns and they made significant changes to this proposal. They made compromises based on public feedback. And in the past few weeks, I've reached out to my neighbors and constituents for their thoughts on this current proposal, and I've heard very little in response. I think most people are either happy with the changes, have no concerns, or have supported this proposal all along. But there have been loud voices against it in any shape or form. And I believe there are homeowners in this city with legitimate reasons for wanting to build these accessory units, and I feel badly that they might lose the opportunity to do this. If this were up for a referendum, as an individual, I would personally vote yes. However, I'm not willing to debate this issue any longer. So I will vote no on this proposal, but I do believe it has support among the larger community. So I guess, change is inevitable. There's nothing we can do to stop change. But I urge the residents to use their passion and their community pride to really seek positive change for our city. So, thank you.
Thank you. Zarazua, Johnson, then Shore.
Thank you. So I know something that's been debated is whether or not this benefits people with disabilities, your elderly grandma, whatever. I just want to say we already have a few groups in this community that are working to look for more housing for people with disabilities. A person with a disability does not mean they need ADA compliance and can't go upstairs. It might be a person's daughter who has intellectual disability and can't live on her own. We have parents who currently are buying a duplex so that their adult child can live on the other side. This is something that people are looking into. So while it's an expensive option, people are already doing some pretty expensive things to make sure that their family member lives near them. So just keeping that in mind that, obviously we don't think this solution works for everyone, but like Director Kronowski said, this is one possibility of a solution to that problem. So I think that that's something that's important to not lose sight of. I think too, knowing that when this was first proposed and we had neighborhood meetings, we were looking at it being a permitted use, and with it being a conditional use permit, like that really changes that scope. But now, like, people don't want it at all. Like, we have been, like, trying to get this to be something that is a more reasonable option and not just anyone can put one up wherever they want. So, I mean, I feel like we have been really diligent in addressing the concerns that people have had about this from the beginning.
Thank you. President Johnson.
Thank you. Admittedly, prior to about a year ago, I had never heard of the term, so, and it wasn't learning, I didn't learn about it here. Actually, it was a friend of mine, someone I've known for about 20 years, who has a daughter who's on the autism spectrum, and she is now a young adult. And my friend said, we're challenged here. They want to live separately. They're adults. They want to be living separately, but still need some support from parents or other loved ones. It may not be parents, it could be a sister, brother, grandmother, aunt. And so there's this group called Doors to Dreams, and I believe the mayor is well aware of this group. And they've been advocating for just this kind of thing, the ability to have some kind of housing within the property so the adult can have the dignity and respect of living alone, and the parent has the peace of mind that they're close by. So that was my first experience with it. And I thought it a marvelous idea if it can provide that support to those kind of families. I never thought it was an affordable option. If you've been out looking at houses lately, there isn't an affordable option, period. It's ugly out there. So I never saw it as that. Again, I started with my first exposure. We had our neighborhood meeting, and we did respond and listen, and the Community Development Department took all the really great recommendations on concerns about the closeness to other structures and fire hazards. And so kudos to not only the people who showed up and provided some really, really, really good information, but then Community Development Department for bringing that together. Recently I was out visiting with neighbors, knocking doors throughout District 5 for another reason, but I took the opportunity to ask about this topic, and pretty much I heard from quite a few people, oh, so I could put an office in my backyard and I don't have to have my office in my house. And I said this would allow you to do that. So I was later followed up with 3 phone calls from my constituents who said, we really like this idea that you've told us about. One person said, I really want to get this going. I want to start an at-home business. I think he said he was an architect. So those are the reasons for, and my exposure, my background with it. Initially, I wanted it as a permitted use because I know the shortcomings of conditional use permits that the legislature have cast upon us. And I also agree that this is one tool. I think I could not agree more that we need to rehab the rental stock back into single-family home. We've had long conversations about that, haven't we? So couldn't agree more. We need to employ all the tools because there is no way for people to begin building wealth in this community because houses are now out of reach for most families. So those are all the reasons. Again, how it started, how I've learned, how I've listened, and my ultimate decision, which is to support this.
Thank you. Alderperson Shore.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll echo my colleagues' comments on a few things. One is the key point of what this is for is an option for people. This is a discussion about what limits to put on what people can do with their property. And we have a lot of limits and should on what people can do with their property, but we have to have reasons for them. And I'll also echo the point about all of the great discussions that there have been on this. They've been extensive, and I think they've been really constructive. And it's a little distressing, the idea that there's something hidden here. This has very much been out in the open, like everything we do. as someone who personally pushed the issue of residence, and made sure that it was, a really strong definition of resident. I mean, there's zero chance I would ever support removing that requirement. I think we've got a good and sensible package here. The only things that might be interested down the road in loosening, the 10,000 square feet is a bit high. My own block, when I looked at it, at the 8,000 square foot limit, which I think is where we were before it went to 10,000, I think there was one property on the block that was big enough. My own property would come in just above the 6,000 square foot size, and I can see that my lot might be a bit small for this. So I don't know, maybe 7,000, I don't know, might be a good lower limit, but that's an issue for another time. 900 square foot size, there was a mention in the comments about an 858 square foot garage, and I think the reason for that is, and I didn't come up with this myself, but a very observant public commenter at Plan Commission mentioned this, that 36 by 24 is a standard garage size. And that's why I would favor keeping that 900 square foot size, because while I realize it's large, the ability to convert a garage is one of the few ways that this can be made somewhat affordable. The one other thing that I was interested in relaxing a little bit was an idea that I first heard Alder Dalton express, and I think I would like to ask the director about that, because I was interested in possibly making an amendment, and that has to do with section 1, subsection G, which is the owner-occupied language, which mostly I like a lot. But it says the owner must continue to occupy the principal residential use on the site. And this is the issue of whether the property owner needs to be, again, feel very strongly that they need to be there. And one main reason is so that they're there to both hear any complaints from neighbors and address them. But this question of whether the property owner needs to be in the main structure or could reside in the accessory structure, Director, could you clarify any reasoning behind that? Because it seems to me, as long as they're on the premises, I don't know why we would have an interest which one that they reside in. Thank you.
Sure. So the main reason, really, there was two for this. One is that specific concept was borrowed from another municipality where it was the primary resident, that the owner of the property had to occupy the primary residence. But the second generally was if you have the primary residence, which would arguably be street facing, that the primary owner would be more likely to maintain at a higher standard the primary residence if they resided in it as opposed to the accessory residence as well. So, I think your city staff is indifferent really about whether or not they could occupy the primary or accessory residence, but this was something that I think was brought up a number of times as well in the neighborhood meetings that we had, and that concept of keeping the primary residence owned by the primary occupant of the property.
Thank you.
Okay. We are good to go. If you are in favor of the motion, which is to approve the ordinance as presented, you will vote yes. If you are opposed, you will vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
No.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
No.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slowinski.
No.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Keemer.
No.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
6-5.
Yep, there's 4.
7-4. 7-4, the motion is approved. Item number 9 is a request from Greg Goki, representing Opera House LLC, for a facade improvement grant in the amount of $144,473.98 to perform exterior improvements to the building located at 1124 Main Street, with parcel identified in your packet. Director, do you have anything to add? We've talked about this already as well.
Yeah, just generally, anything above the 30,000 mark does have to go through Common Council per the facade improvement grant program. This would be the second time we've gone above and beyond that for major downtown projects. The other one was 1055 Main Street. This is the Opera House, formerly known as Fox Theater, so city staff and not historic preservation, but also historic preservation and finance have recommended approval.
I think this is a great investment in our
I'll
downtown.
move approval.
Thank you.
Second.
Seconded by Kneebone. Discussion. See, you were quicker that time, I saw that. Any discussion? Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
And that is approved. Item number 10 is a request to hold an event or a street closing for the Friends of Emerson Park, the Jefferson School Bicycle Safety Rodeo on May 14th, 2022. This is a new event. Need a motion?
So moved.
Here we go.
Okay. All right, we'll do it on that side. I was trying to be nice and let the Friends of Emerson, throw that or whatever. We need a second.
They were slow.
Second, I think we found a volunteer to come help that day.
There you go. May 14th, Alderperson Morrow. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion there? Any chance anyone wants to tell us a little bit more about what might be going on that day?
Sure, we'll do the tag team again if we want. I put this together, and it is on behalf of Jefferson School and the Parks Department and Friends of Emerson Park. We're going to spend the Saturday morning of May 14th. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. And the gym teacher at Jefferson, Laura Gunderson, has actually been trained on how to do this. Our law enforcement has already said they'll have someone over there to help us, as will the fire department. And I'm trying to convince Public Works that they should bring over a big truck because kids love big trucks. So it's all about safety and getting the community together.
Great. Anything to add,
Did I miss
Alderperson
anything?
Keemer?
Yeah, Melissa and Laura Gunderson have been doing the majority of the planning for this, but I believe Laura Gunderson is also reaching out to the bike shops in town to
Yes, thank
see
you.
if they'll do, some kind of free tune-ups or just, yeah.
And this is-
Bicycle rodeo, maybe we could have the bicyclists go over the potholes in the parking lot here.
There you go.
That would
yeah.
be something.
See
This
if
is
they can
free of
hang on.
charge. This is free of charge. There is no
Pothole
charge.
challenge.
So children may participate, and they'll learn how to check their bike for safety and also how to ride
Excellent.
safe.
Excellent. And that's May 14th, 2022.
You bet.
If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 11 is the ordinance amendment to approve changes in Chapter 21 regarding building and premises maintenance and occupancy.
I'll move approval.
Motion by Alderperson Fischler, seconded by Alderperson Morrow. Discussion. Alderperson.
Oh, I was really sick actually on Monday, so I wasn't able to attend the meeting. Or I'm sorry,
Committee.
the actual meeting, we couldn't all attend because of the open meeting laws. Sorry, that was a different day. So, but I did watch it online, and it was actually, I thought the meeting went really well, and I think that the questions were answered by, Mr. Cordes and Director Kanowski. And I think that, I remember when this came through Public Policy and General Government 2 years ago, and we had suggested it, maybe bringing it back in chunks. So I think the chunking worked out really well. So thank you.
All right, thanks. All right, anyone else? Clerk, please call the roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 12 is approval of funding for Community Stadium, Gerke Park, and the KB Willett Arena building improvements, including $420,000 in the city contribution and bonding of the projected costs. The reason that this is a separate item before you is because the motion at Finance was not all-inclusive of the request. There is a request for $420,000 for the city contribution. However, because the pledges, just like the last time we did the turf, extend over several years, we are asking that the city bond for the total cost of the project and then take repayment through those donation agreements, which are already in place. But we didn't actually, we checked the video, and when Alderperson Morrow, when you made your motion, you specifically stated only the $420,000. So we're bringing it back because it wasn't caught with the Finance Committee at all. So we are asking that the motion include the bonding as well as the $420,000 city portion of that multi-million-dollar project. Comptroller Treasurer Laddick is on here. He wants to make sure that everybody understands that this borrowing, in conjunction with some of the upfront TIF incentives that we've already approved and will likely be asked for going forward, that will put a peak in our borrowing. So you will see an uptick in the borrowing because of this. But based on what we've discussed, it's not going to affect our bond rating or anything like that. Comptroller, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, I think you pretty much nailed it. I think it's a great project. I just want to make sure that nobody's surprised that, it looks like for 2022 and 2023, we will see an increase in the total amount of debt outstanding. And I think one of the things that we have to be prepared to explain is that the increase in that debt is going to be due to both the Gerke project and these TIF projects, which were not relying on the general property taxpayer to cover in terms of repayment. So I do think that, I understand if somebody's going to look at that and say, well, geez, you're racking up a big bill here for city taxpayers, but we really aren't. We're finding other ways to fund these projects.
Thank you, Comptroller. And yeah, this is, I couldn't speak more to a real community project with all the people stepping up, making their contributions, making their commitments, and the city's a part of that. So I would ask if there is a motion that it include the $420,000 in the city contribution and the bonding for the projected costs. Alderperson Shore.
Thank you. As the representative of Gerke Park neighborhood, I move approval of the city contribution of $420,000 as well as the bonding of the other contributions from other parties.
The bonding would include the project costs. The paying back of that bonding comes from the donations. So I just need a motion to approve the $420,000 and the bonding of the project costs.
Of the project costs. Okay.
So moved would be okay.
Yeah. Second.
President Johnson seconds. Discussion, clarification? Yes, Alderperson Switsky.
Clarification, so you're not stating that by this bonding that we're gonna max out on our borrowing capacity?
We are not.
Okay, just to make that clear.
No, and it's not gonna affect our bond rating, but we will be borrowing, so when we go through the budget,
Right.
and you watch it online, you can see the spike in the borrowing
We have nothing to do
because
with
of this
that
and the
on
TIF
Monday
projects
nights.
and so forth.
Got it.
President Johnson.
I just want to be clear and ask the Comptroller Treasurer, this would be my kind of interpretation of it, is this is similar to a revenue bond, and the revenue source is all of the donors.
Yep.
So just like if you had an enterprise fund with the Sewer and Water Commission.
It's not gonna be paid back through
Right,
taxpayer money.
Right, so that's one way to kind
property
of
taxes.
put it to help people kind of
Yeah.
understand it.
Is that,
Yeah, the only clarification that I would make is we are going to issue it as general obligation,
Okay.
just because it would be tough to do an actual true revenue bond.
Sure.
Where all that we're guaranteeing is the revenues. For sewer and water, we'll do bonds where we say, hey, it is the sewer and water revenues only, and that's all that you're relying on as the bondholder.
Sure.
For this, we still are going to do it as general obligation, where the city is pledging its full faith and credit and taxing authority, and doing this borrowing, I don't expect it to affect our bond rating, but it is something if we continue to pile projects, on depending on the next couple of years, we might have to talk a little bit about our overall strategy with preserving our bond rating, if we
Right.
continue to do projects that increase our total general obligation debt.
Right. Thank you. I also would be remiss if I didn't mention all of the hard work that goes on behind the scenes. Director Kramer, Mr. Sherrill, all of the donors, including Chancellor Gibson, who was a supporter with UWSP, Spash Athletic Department, Pacelli Athletic Department, youth sports. All of these community partners have pledged and committed to making this project happen. If you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no. And now the clerk, what?
Are you gonna second?
Yes. Motion by Shore, second by Johnson. You want to third it? We can third it. I tell you what, if you're in favor of thirding the motion, you can vote yes too. No, we're just going to call the vote. Thank you.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 13 is an ordinance amendment to approve the amendments to Chapter 9, Section 9.05 and 9.06 as it relates to traffic signs. If you recall, Public Works Director Badoon told us this is really just cleaning up our ordinances. We go through it every month, and we always find something that doesn't match. So we're just looking to clean that up. Need a motion? We'll give it to Dalton.
I'll second.
Second by Keemer. Discussion. Hearing none, clerk, please call that roll.
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 14 is another ordinance amendment to Chapter 16 as it relates to streets, alleys, and sidewalks, as discussed at Public Works, also included in your packet. Moved by Dalton, seconded by Morrow. Discussion? Hearing none, can I get a roll call, please?
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Let's see if we get some of those streets fixed now. Item number 15 is to award 2022 Streets Improvement Project 22-01 to A1 Excavating in the amount not to exceed $8,709,540.24.
So move to get the streets fixed.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Seconded by Zarazua. Discussion there.
Is Director Badoon here?
He is not.
Okay.
Is there a question that I can answer for you,
It
maybe?
was just usually when I see a big gap between the lowest and the next highest, I always have, I just like some clarification. But
And
that's
we had
fine,
talked
it's not a
about
big one.
that, so we are confident that the
Okay.
bidders know exactly what they're bidding on.
And they put it at the bottom line, so.
Oh, he's right there.
Oh, he did show
Wow,
up.
that was,
Wow! Say his name 3 times?
wow.
I thought you were
So-
avoiding us tonight
Yeah.
with,
Game finished, so
oh, it's finished, okay.
So if I like say
Sorry.
your name
Public
again,
duty
you'll
to
just
come back
pop
to
in.
this
I ran down the halls, but I didn't hear the question. I
The
just kinda-
question was, President Johnson had some concerns
Sure.
between the lowest bid and the next lowest bid
Big
and what the
gap.
gap might account for.
Yeah,
The gap, well, between the
Between
actual
A1
two
and
lowest
the
bids
next
was
one.
like less than 1%, or just about 1%.
Yeah.
They're almost saying, no, the 4 of the 5 were within 7%. Then there was
Okay.
one that was way out of, I couldn't tell you what in the world they
Okay.
were bidding.
yeah, I just, when there's usually a
Yeah,
big
because one
gap.
was nearly $1 million more than all the rest.
Yeah,
But they were actually very tight, because
Okay.
4 lowest bids were all within about 7%, less than 10%. So they clearly were all bidding
Yeah.
the same thing.
still a bit, so, but thanks, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, if you're looking at your tab, it depends which version you have. I have to understand, I noticed that in
It's
the
on
last
page
week going through it,
224 of 26,
because they should be
226.
with just in a few thousand of each other. But there was one that came out there was an incorrect summation,
Okay,
and maybe that's what you're looking at. If they're more than just a few thousand apart, that would be an incorrect tabulation.
it's like $1 million,
Yeah.
okay. And that was not all the itty bitty numbers, yeah.
Okay, if you're in favor, vote yes. If you're opposed, vote no, and the clerk will call the roll.
Christensen.
Thank you, Director. Don't go away. We got 2 more.
Shore.
Aye.
Keemer.
Aye.
Zarazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. You know, I just feel the need to talk about this. The game was over, so that's great that you were able to make it. But the city staff makes sacrifices every single day. My administrative assistant, Sandy, took over as interim HR manager, and she's here for the whole meeting on her birthday.
Happy birthday.
Scott just took his kid home, that's all. I want to point that out. This is, you work your 45 to 50 hours a week anyway, and then you're able to make it to the meetings. Did Melise win?
Yes, they won.
They won. All right, excellent. Item number 15 is to, nope, we did that. 16 is to award the pavement maintenance project, 22-04 to Farner Asphalt Sealers, in an amount not to exceed $244,303.13. Moved by Fischler,
I'll second.
seconded by Keever. She's good now. Discussion there?
Get those potholes.
Hearing none, clerk, please call the roll.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 17 is to award the 2022 curb, gutter, and sidewalk project, 22-05, to Farner Asphalt Sealers in an amount not to exceed $230,238.05.
So moved.
Moved by Shore, seconded by Zarazua. Discussion. Hearing none, can we get a roll call, please?
Christensen.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Zerazua.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Slawinski.
Aye.
Nebone.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Morrow.
Aye.
And that is approved. Item number 18, we're going to interject one more in here because our former HR manager, Lisa Yakush, retired, as I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, did join us. I offered her to, if she wanted to do some parting comments, and she's joining us via Zoom. So Lisa, once again, thank you for your years of service, and I will turn the floor over to you.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to start by thanking the members of the City Council. I've worked with a number of City Councils over the 24 years I've worked with the City of Stevens Point and have enjoyed it tremendously. I'd also like to give a shout out to former County Personnel Director Paul Jaden, going back a few years, for taking a chance on me, and the same with former Mayor Westcott for taking a chance on me when I started working for the City of Stevens Point 24 years ago. 37 and a half years in that building is quite a long time, longer than some of our members of our City Council have probably even been alive. So it is a major change in my life, but one I'm very excited about. Looking back over the years with the City of Stevens Point, there are some accomplishments that I would like to call out. When I first started working for the City of Stevens Point, we didn't have a post-employment health plan. That benefit is one that assists employees who retire with paying health insurance premiums post-retirement. So that was a big win for our employees, and that went across the board, union employees as well as management employees. We also implemented a return to work program, which helped our workers' compensation mod a great deal. Again, trying to be stewards of taxpayer dollars and helping assist in reducing those costs as well. We also implemented a wellness program for our employees, which helped identify, in some cases, medical concerns, serious medical concerns for employees before they turned into a more life-threatening situation. So that's something that I think benefited our employees, their quality of life, as well as helped our workers' comp and our health insurance as well. Comptroller Treasurer Laddick and I worked together more recently on becoming self-funded for our workers' compensation program. Again, enabling him to better budget for workers' compensation and allowing the city to work with an outside third-party administrator, Cities and Villages Mutual Insurance. And I want to also give a shout out to Cities and Villages because they have done an awesome job for our city, offering various types of training for all our employees across the board. It's not something that the city could afford to do by ourselves. So partnering with them has really been beneficial for both the city itself and for our employees as well. They offer many types of training, as I mentioned, boots on the ground, right? Setting up signage for work zones, things of that nature. They also offer leadership training, emerging leader and perfecting leader training tracks. And I highly recommend that to all of our directors and department heads when they are promoting employees to keep those opportunities in mind. I think it is very beneficial to all of the employees. When I decided that I was going to retire, the mayor asked me, why now? And since that time, I've had more time to reflect on that and the decision I made. Had things been different, I might have decided to stay on a bit longer. I likely would have decided to stay on a bit longer. However, in the more recent years, there's been a shift in some of the relationships with the department heads. Some of you may recall in 2018 or 2019 where the department heads came in together as a group to prioritize new position requests and work together in a more harmonious way. Unfortunately, that sort of working together, it's kind of gone by the wayside, and it's rather unfortunate. I had a rather ugly incident with a department head who is a director who just couldn't take no for an answer, and things got a little bit sideways there. I just feel that in some cases, it's not always fair and equitable across the board, and that's quite unfortunate. I will say that I will miss a number of the employees that I've worked with. The city of Stevens Point has some very dedicated and loyal staff, and I hope that fair and equal treatment across the board can continue to occur, can start to occur, or can be improved upon. I was quite humbled by the number of employees that reached out to me during the last days of my employment with the city of Stevens Point. In my role, I wore both a black hat and a white hat. I could not always give employees the answer that they wanted to hear. But you get in a whole lot less trouble, I have found over the years, if you are consistent in your responses and treat people the same, which is what I always strive to do. So even though I couldn't always tell people, no, we can get that covered under your health insurance, or no, I can't, that's not my interpretation of your labor agreement or the city administrative policy, I was quite humbled by the number of people that reached out to me and that came to our little cake and coffee session on my last day. It was quite humbling to have fire trucks and squad cars show up for something good instead of an emergency in the building. The city in years past has been like a family, and I talked about it with some of the more senior employees in City Hall. We spend so much time with the people that we work with. They are like a second family to us. So when somebody treats you disrespectfully, it's rather unfortunate. I would like to mention to the alders that I did have an exit interview with the city attorney per the city administrative policy. And I would invite any of the alders who have questions about that to reach out and contact City Attorney Beveridge for any questions with regard to that. I wish you all the best. I wish the city of Stevens Point nothing but the best as they go forward. And the alders, Alder Leek and Alder Slowinski, it has been very enjoyable working with you, and I wish you all the best in your future.
Thank you very much, Lisa. We appreciate your entire service, Portage County and to the citizens of now, dun dun dun.
I was pointing to you because you're not
You want
37.
me up there?
What, you don't want to?
Well, I can't, I didn't know.
So here's the thing, when someone puts in a service to the citizens of Stevens Point, we like to recognize them, not only with giving them the opportunity to speak their mind at a council meeting, but we also like to give them a little token of that appreciation. HR Manager Yakush took her award or plaque of recognition at that cake and coffee. Well, there was no coffee there. It was just cake. But the event that we held for her at City Hall. It saddens me, but gives me great pleasure at the same time to recognize Alderperson Jeremy Slowinski for his work. When I was an alderperson elected in 2004, Jeremy was elected the next term and sat real close. And I will say this publicly, that I don't think it was your 5th or 6th meeting where you said, I don't think I want to do this. And here we are, all of those years later, repeatedly, I have commended Jeremy as a voice of reason, someone who comes in with a passion to do the job, to represent his constituents, and he does so and has done so to a T. That doesn't mean you agree with him. That means he is representing the people that he's supposed to represent, those 2,200 roughly people who live in the 6th district. So Jeremy, in recognition of your dedicated public service as alderperson on the City of Stevens Point's Common Council, the people of the City of Stevens Point extend their profound appreciation and gratitude to you, serving April 2006 to April 2022. Congratulations. That pretty's yours.
Well, as most of you know, I don't do speeches. I actually, I guess maybe just a little background, when I ran initially, I ran because September 11th is what really drove me, opened my eyes, you know, to what's going on in my community. Up until then, I didn't pay attention to anything, you know, I was just going on with my life. But anyway, September 11th really opened my eyes, and I thought to myself, I really need to get involved, and just in my community, just be aware of what's going on and have an impact. One thing that I was deathly afraid of when I considered running is I am not a good public speaker. I get very nervous. Sometimes my passion overtakes my my talking, and you know, I'm not a good speaker. So anyway, I guess I'm just going to start out with saying I thank God for giving me the opportunity to serve the people of Stevens Point. I think my family, my wife, there's been many times I've come home from meetings, and she's one of those, some of you know her very well in here, she's not political at all. She doesn't follow things like, you know, the city politics and such. So she put up with me for a long time, just coming home and venting and discussing things. So I do thank her a lot for putting up with me. I thank all the alders, the current alders here that I've served with, and also the past alders. Even though we don't agree on everything, you know, we do respect each other. And I strongly believe, I know I've had many conversations with President Johnson about, you know, agreeing and disagreeing and just bringing different perspectives to the table. That's how we get things done. So I do thank all of you for serving with me. I thank all the department heads, all the city employees that I've worked with through the years. I've never had an issue with any one of them, you know, helping me out, answering my questions. Now, granted, there's probably a few department heads I've probably had some passionate discussions with, but we all, you know, it's always been respectful at the end that, you know, we agree to disagree. So I want to thank all the, you know, the city employees, past and present. I thank all the mayors that I've served for or served with. You know, Mayor Westcott, Mayor Helverson, Mayor Wiesa. Again, I thank the constituents of the 6th District for continuing to elect me to serve them. And I always said that when I served, you know, that you're not going to make everyone happy, but you want to just, you know, serve for the most, you know, and that's what I always strive to do. And obviously, you know, I strive to represent, you know, and just be a strong voice for them on the city council. I mean, there's so many things that I've, voted for through the years. I'm not going to go into, things that, I guess major accomplishments that we have, because there's been many. So I guess I just want to end on saying that I encourage people to get more involved in their communities. Run for a city council position, run for school board, come to the meetings, be involved. Don't just sit on Facebook and, complain about, this and that. No, step into the game, be part of the solution. So I guess that's what I want to encourage, people that are listening moving forward, to just step up. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. Because I'm just your average Joe. I mean, I don't have, any big accolades or, big degrees. I'm just a person that cares about my community. So I just encourage everyone that's just to step up and get involved. That's all. I think this should be it. I'm passing the baton on to a very caring person, and I told all of my constituents in my district that you're in good hands, because you're going to take care of the people, you're going to listen to the people, and I'm so thankful for you stepping up and taking my spot. So again, thank you everyone for all the years, and I'm not getting out of the game. I'm probably maybe just changing fields. I'll be around. So.
Another one who hasn't been with us too terribly long, but has still made an impact on the community. And Jeremy put it right, because when I first decided to run for mayor, I remember the city council. I remember the night vividly. It was the night we dedicated the new Clark Street Bridge. And I came up to Mayor Westcott. I'd been thinking about this for a while, right? I didn't know who my alderperson even was at the time. But I came up to Mayor Westcott and I said, Mayor, I'm thinking about running for city council. And he goes, why? I thought about it. No, seriously, I thought about it for a little bit. And I'm like, I just want to help my neighbors. And he goes, Mike, that's exactly the right reason. That's why Jeremy Slowinski was so good at it. You want to do good things. You don't come in with an agenda. You don't come in with a goal of putting a stop sign in or I don't know, whatever it might be. You just want to do good. And I know Ron has that passion as well. Another person who I think has that passion is Alderperson Thomas Leake. He's only been with us for one term, but I think the impression that you've had on the community is lasting. So in recognition of your dedicated public service, as Alderperson to the City of Stevens Point's Common Council, the people of the City of Stevens Point extend their profound appreciation and sincere gratitude to you, Alderperson Thomas Leake, April 2020 through 2022.
Thank you. I don't have a lot to say. In fact, I'm wearing the wrong glasses today. I lost mine yesterday, so it's probably the wrong time for pictures. I wore these in the right around the time you were elected. I was wearing these, so I'm not seeing very well at the moment. But I'd like to thank all my fellow alders for serving with me. And the mayor, and I'd like to congratulate the incoming alders, Carlson and incoming alder Shuda. It was a great competition, and I for one take elections and democracy seriously, and I think it's actually a really important thing to have these sorts of competition, I guess. But if it may seem a little odd to say here that God is not a respecter of persons. It doesn't really matter the personality who wins. It matters that who sits in this seat or that seat. What matters is that things get done. And at least in my point of view, that future, well, let's say current voters, current residents, and future residents are well served with a strategic vision for that balances development and the interests of current residents. So thank you all once again. I'm sorry I don't have a whole lot to say. Oh, and also city staff, of course. It's been great to get to know Director Konowski, Director Badoon, and many others that because I've got a full brain, I'm not quite sure. You can't quite recall at the moment, but. And Director Lemke and Comptroller and everything. Anyway, if I keep listing names, I'm sure I'll forget somebody, so thanks to everyone. Yeah, and yeah, thank you. I guess I'm done, thanks.
Well, unfortunately, you're not done, neither of you. We now need to go into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85 sub 1 sub E for deliberating and negotiating the purchase of public properties, investing public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session, and 19.85 sub 1 sub G, conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering an oral or written advice concerning strategy to be adopted by the body with respect to litigation in which the city is or likely to become involved in regarding the following: initial development review and negotiating the terms of a possible development agreement for property at 1200 Main Street and the surrounding parking lot, an update on acquisition of property in the town of Hull, and a presentation by the city attorney regarding a notice of claims and claims for damage filed by the Four Seasons Mobile Home Park LLC. We will be coming into open session after that, but at this point, I need a motion to go into closed session.
It is so moved. Closed session.
Then seconded by Kneebone. Morrow and Kneebone. We'll need a roll call, please.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slowinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sarazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And we will go into closed session. Mark, can you hear us better?
Yep. I can
Okay.
hear you.
We are back in open session, and I would be looking for a motion.
As
Alderperson
my
Leek.
last official motion, I'd be happy to move that we deny or disallow the claims by Four Seasons.
Okay, do we have a second? Seconded by Slowinski. There you go. Any discussion there?
Symmetry.
I will need a roll call, please.
Morrow.
Aye.
Fischler.
Aye.
Dalton.
Aye.
Leek.
Aye.
Kneebone.
Aye.
Slowinski.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Sarazua.
Aye.
Keimer.
Aye.
Shore.
Aye.
Christensen.
Aye.
And that is approved, and we are adjourned at 9:40 p.m.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.